folks. Richard Moore, USAGSA. And today I've got Lorraine Valente. It's Valente, right?
Yes.
She was in New Jersey. We'll talk about that. The Garden State, I believe it is. And now she's in Eastern Kentucky, the Appalachian Mountains. She's close to George Dickel country. It's close to my heart, or was at one time. But before I jump into it, folks, Lorraine is she's a targeted individual. She has a YouTube channel, Alternative Homesteading, and I'll put that link in the video description.
Yes.
At USAGSA, we are 100% supported by our listeners and followers, and of course our readers on Substack and WordPress and some of the other social media platforms that we're on. If in the description of the video, you'll see our link tree. You click that link tree, and all the links to all the platforms are not in there, but to our other platforms, and the links to support us: Donor Box, GoFundMe, Cash App, Chime, etc. I've got some very dedicated supporters that are absolutely godsends, and I don't want to miss opportunities to let them know. They know that I know who they are, and I appreciate you. It's because of them we're able to do what we're doing. And if you are gaining anything from our content and you realize the mission of our organization is to expose corruption and to give voice to victims everywhere, and to create and bring about change. That is our mission. So please subscribe, share, comment, and like. And folks, share this and share it relentlessly. It's very important. Don't keep it a secret. So Lorraine, I appreciate you contacting me, and I have had opportunities to go to your channel a few times, and you've got a eclectic selection there of different topics that you talk about. And folks, she didn't just talk about being targeted and tortured or something like that. She may be talking about anything, like me. Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
It depends on how the wind's blowing and what's happening at the moment, and you're gonna get it shortly thereafter, and that's the way it works. So tell us, Lorraine, a little bit about yourself. I know that you've got a degree in psychology. Is that right?
Yes, I have 2 degrees in psychology. One, my undergraduate is in abnormal, deviant, and violent psychology with a concentration in addiction and addictive behaviors. And I graduated with honors. And then I went on for my master's degree, and I have a master's in psychology with a concentration in health. Further in that, my capstone thesis paper was the alternatives to medicating children diagnosed with ADHD. So for 2 years, 3 years, that's all I studied was Ritalin, Concerta, Adderall, the effects on children. I interviewed children. I interviewed my daughter's friends who were placed on these horrible medications, and knew about what their side effects were. I actually formed a group online, and I went into other ADHD groups online, presented my information. I had a Facebook page, ADHD Alternatives, which is where I got my YouTube channel from. My YouTube channel was originally ADHD Alternatives, and it was all about ADHD. And then when that wasn't going over so well in the mainstream world, I switched it to Alternative Homesteading, which is a farm now in rural Kentucky. And I'm no longer focused on that area, but I have a lot of background history on it.
Do you still do any consultations or anything like that?
I do consultations now. health consultations, consultations with targeted people, because I am one. I understand what they're going through. I have probably 5 people so far have been instrumental in helping them get out of a psych ward.
Oh,
Okay, so
amen.
you know how that goes. You know, it's these false psychiatric diagnoses. The Baker Act, the whistleblower, the Baker Act, men and women.
Absolutely.
To silence the truth teller, to discredit, label them. And they do this with children. And
Right.
this is the thing that really is horrific. Those children that are diagnosed at 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 years old, that sticks with them for life. And when you talk about
this is part of the establishment of
agenda,
and big pharma, trying to, you know, it's creating. It's like it's the same thing with this targeting program. It's creating a perfect paradigm. You give a diagnosis, you make up a word for it, fake diagnosis to fit whatever's going on. It's probably nothing. And then you medicate them, and you're on a roller coaster ride for the rest of your life.
Yes. They wanted to label normal developmental childhood behaviors as being abnormal. And the parents went along because the parents are self-medicating also, and they look up to the medical doctors as gods. Mm-hmm. And it's really horrific. I mean, and the long-term negative side effects are off the charts. I mean, I can't use the C word, but aggression, suicide ideation, early male pattern baldness, infertility in both men and women, and the lack of empathy, the lack of compassion, the inability to feel or create.
Right.
Is
that's and then of course we've got our foods.
Yes. Wi-Fi,
milk and chicken you're giving your kids, and and they're fully developed in the 4th and 5th grade. When I was going to school, you didn't see any of that. And I think when I was in school, maybe there might have been one guy, a senior, had a little bit of facial hair. And hell, they've got 6th graders with full-grown beards now. Yes.
And another thing with the hormones in the meat and poultry and stuff like that, boys are developing breasts or breast tissue. And they're falsely of the misguided belief that maybe I'm not a boy anyway. Maybe I'm a female.
Oh, God,
I've got these
gender affirm that one.
That's a whole nother topic.
I know it. Because get you a dress and a sports bra. I don't know what to tell you.
Estrogens and all that stuff. It's creating gender identity. I call it a gender identity disorder. And it's not their fault. Right.
Well, everybody's got a label. You know, I think I was diagnosed as a lunatic, if that's a diagnosis, and I've embraced it. And so for those that are targeting me and stalkers that are watching this, they watch. Keep that in mind. That's the lunatic part. It's not as if you weren't warned. What did you expect would happen?
Yes.
So, and did you think, Lorraine, your background and your and the work you were doing, did that contribute to you being marked as an enemy of the state?
You know what? I've had subscribers say that to me. It's very possible. However, and it's absolutely possible, because when I would go before my professors, you know, to approve my subject matter, you know, it's controversial. And I got the feeling, the vibe from some professors that they weren't happy. With it. They weren't happy.
Where'd you go? UC Berkeley?
Oh, no.
Well, that sounds like them.
I was a divorced single mom, raising my daughter alone in Manalapan, New Jersey, 52 Sutton Drive in home.
Manalapan, New Jersey. We're going to hopefully talk about that.
Oh, yeah. 30 years.
Criminal cops with badges.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. But So I lived at 52 Sutton Drive, Manalapan, New Jersey, a home I lived in for 30 years as original owner. So I lived there with my ex-husband, bought him out, continued to live there, raised up my daughter. My daughter now has got 2 master's degrees. She's living in another state, and I became targeted in New Jersey, I believe somewhere between 2009 and 2012. Absolutely, by 2012, I was in it, you know. I saw people following me in 2015, writing notes about me, parking next to me. I photographed them.
And they may not actually, a lot of that's role playing, making notes and doing that kind of stuff. They're wanting to send these visual cues.
Yes.
And to change those neurotransmitter pathways in your brain.
Yes.
After that's the sensitization. Then after a while, that's what's going on.
Yes, but back then I didn't know what it was. So right. I was always proactive and I took photos of everything. I cared for a feral cat colony. I was going to school full time. I had a daughter driving back to her university, in another part of New Jersey. And I became targeted sometime between 2009 and 2012 for certain. And the Manalapan Police Department were involved. They were discrediting me every time I filed an incident report with evidence.
Oh, nothing happens.
Not only nothing happened, but they
double down.
They falsified the report. And let me just explain to the viewers how it works in New Jersey and Manalapan, okay? Now, the Manalapan Police Department is extremely well funded, okay? Very well funded. They've got new everything. They've got a beautiful police department. When I left there, they had created a new building with a thin blue line, all the way down the driveway and everything. Equipment through the kazoo. They had the ability to wipe clean my security cameras, get into my house, because what they did is, at one time, you only had to register your house alarm with them annually. Mm-hmm. Then suddenly, to appease the public about spending for the police department, they got rid of a few cops. They're saying, oh no, we only have this many cops now. Well, what they did, the ones that they fired, they set them up in a new business in another state, right, to monitor our house alarms. So we had to register now annually, pay a fee annually, have a website that we go to update our personal information.
To give them access to it.
Yes.
That's a Fourth Amendment violation.
Absolutely. I was horrified at the time, divorced single mom, and I had cameras through the kazoo. So I had the centrally monitored alarm system with a well-known alarm company. Then I started to install.
Now you're free to. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but when you're talking about any of these cops or any of these people that are contribute to this corruption, then I absolutely welcome and embrace that you've named these individuals. That I'll let you use your own discretion.
I'm going to. I will. When I get to how they set up the neighbor and how they broke into my house without a warrant, I will absolutely name those people.
Very good.
So, this is the backdrop on Manalapan is a very, I'm not going to say it's affluent, but so the medium income is like $120,000 a year. The medium house now is about $550 a year now.
What part of the state is Manalapan in?
Manalapan is in Monmouth County.
I mean, what geographical areas? Is it northern or eastern part of the state?
New Jersey. This was New Jersey.
Oh, it's in New Jersey.
Manalapan, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know. I've been to New Jersey a couple of times, but what I know.
Yes. No. So New Jersey. I lived in. It was Monmouth County. The zip code was 7726. I literally lived within walking distance of the Manalapan Police Department, the high school, the post office.
Chris Christie's territory.
Yeah. Well, he's not there any. Yeah.
Ain't that the truth?
I was there during his reign, where he was like, he told everybody to not go outside, but he was like sunbathing on the beach.
Yeah, I'd hate to have seen that. That somebody. That's one day you didn't harpoon him.
Yes. Okay. So I became targeted between 2009, 2012, but I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know what it was. I saw people following me. 2015, people were taking notes about me. U-turns.
Yeah.
There were women in SUVs stalking me, hanging out at the end of my driveway at home until I got home, like just watching me. People would drive by my house and start photographing me with a camera. I didn't know it was street theater. Okay, I didn't know what it was. But during
street theater, harassment.
It's pure.
It is deep harassment, constant, 24/7, and it's relentless.
And I had military people following me.
Yeah.
And from Manalapan into Englishtown on a daily basis, you would see them, and I'm thinking, first of all, let me just give you a backdrop. Like I said, I was a divorced single mom. I was going to school full time. And I went to school full time online. I went to Walden University. First, I went in person to Hunter College, and then I ended up transferring my credits online. It's too difficult to have your own business, which I did. I had my own staffing business. So what I did is I staffed IT professionals at the World Trade Center. Another long story, but so I worked a splits business with other recruiters. So what I did was I was good at the internet. I was good at sourcing and interviewing these IT guys. I was dating an IT guy at the time. I ended up buying the book. I studied about network engineering and programming, and I was interviewing these IT professionals for the other recruiters in New York City who were doing everything via fax machine. Okay. So I was getting the resumes via email, printing them out, faxing them to them. And we get what was called a split business, 50-50, 60-40, whatever. So I had my own business, raising a daughter in Manalapan, going to school full time, and going through a horrendous divorce, 3+ years divorce. And then I have the Manalapan, New Jersey.
Is he out of the picture now, or he's not part of the deal, is he?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, I've been divorced since I think 2002 or 2003.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so all this started happening around 2009.
Okay.
Hurricane Irene, Hurricane Sandy, and there are a whole lot of incidences leading up to it. But every time I would file an incident report with the police department, I'd read it. It would be completely falsified. Lies of omission. Omission of facts, changing the facts, saying in an incident report, she appears to be paranoid.
Oh yeah,
she appears to be
paranoid. And they gaslight you, of course.
Gaslighting.
You said this. No, I didn't.
Gaslighting. When I attempted to change the reports, completely ignored me. The person in charge back then, it's the retired former chief of police, Michael Fountain.
Michael Fountain.
What's
he doing now? Just a civilian stalker?
Probably.
They don't retire from being creep stalkers, folks.
They never retire. They go into private contracting, security, gang stalking. Yeah. They go work in schools as a security guard or whatever. They don't retire.
Oh, no, they sure don't.
They're control freaks.
Mall cops.
Yeah, exactly. They're all control freaks.
Walmart door greeters.
Yeah, absolutely. So now he was part of it at the time. Then there was his lieutenant, Thomas Mantle, who I actually met with in person to get one of the reports changed. And he had the narcissist grin, the grin that goes up on the side. Huh. He used to change the report, even though it was factually incorrect.
Right.
Factually incorrect.
We're gonna do Brady complaints on them. I'm gonna hopefully get you started on that, and we need, as you know, I'm a citizen reporter. We're a citizen reporter with the National Brady List, and and I want to expand and have Brady reporters in every state.
Yes.
And multiples in every state. Because at the end of the day, folks, this corruption that she's talking about, this targeting, the head of the snake is law enforcement, state, local, and federal. And on the Brady list, we hold them accountable, as well as prosecutors and judges. Go ahead.
They also ask this one question every time they would take a complaint from me. They would always ask me, "Do you live alone?" Like as if living alone.
Right. That's strange, isn't it?
It's a very, yes. And they would always ask me that question. And actually, they did something to my mother, and they actually wrote that she lived alone when she was living with a partner for years. So they have this. Have
they harassed your mother at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a deputy sheriff call my mother and tell her that if I didn't check in somewhere, that they were going to arrest me for being around somebody that had a gun. My mother was horrified.
I believe it.
I told her, I said, look, I said, ignore them. If they could have arrested me for anything, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be in jail.
Right.
I said, two, that's a made up charge. And three, you can rest assured that all hell is going to break loose. And I drug them through it a couple of times in federal court, and they know it. They spent money on attorneys, our money, but they had to talk about things and had to do a lot of things that they weren't comfortable with. And I've done that 5 times, folks. And for a future reference, folks, I'm just getting warmed up on that. So you can rest assured. And I'm getting better at it too. I'm getting way better. And I can articulate it better than I could yesterday. I'm better today.
Yes.
And you can believe one thing. The platform of exposing this program, the main platform, I believe, is of course when we go to vote in federal courtrooms.
Yes. Well, with regard to my mother actually gave testimony to the officer because, I lived there for 30 years. She knows what my house looks like, what it doesn't look like. She knows that it was vandalized. And they actually wrote in an incident report things that she never said.
Yeah, of course.
Her words. My mother was furious. My mother worked
for liars.
My mother worked for a law firm for like 32 years. She was livid that they twisted her words. You know why? Because she's in her 80s.
Yeah.
You take advantage of women, and they do take advantage of women.
They do it. They target the Golden Age in Florida. It's rampant. Seniors go there to retire, and ladies and gentlemen, they tell you,
yes,
thinking that they go there and they, especially from New Jersey and all in the north and northeast, they go down there to spend their golden years in the Sunshine State, and they are being exploited in every way imaginable, folks. It is absolutely breathtaking.
Yes.
Well,
the incident that I'm describing to you. Yeah.
She's in New Jersey?
Yeah, this is Manalapan.
Okay.
Yes. No, my mother lives in New York, but she would be visiting. She would visit me, several times a month or whatever. So she knew what was going on. She actually hired, she encouraged me to get a private detective.
Yeah, and that's the fox guard in the hen house there.
And then she hired a surveillance company without telling me that came to my house. They wouldn't even talk to me inside my house. They told me outside, they said, don't call the police anymore.
Right.
They've seen this before. They tried to set people up, discredit people or whatever. Of course, I didn't know that I had horrible things happening inside my house.
Yes.
Needed to be reported. And they
like what?
Oh, the vandalism, the poisoning of my cats. They
killed 3 animals of mine.
Yeah, they saw literally a magnolia tree in front of my house. That I bought as a baby. Magnificent tree. Somebody was sawing the branches off. Literally, you could see it.
Yeah.
Sawing and burning, breaking the branches off, knowing that this was going to get to me. They burned the letter M in one of my other trees, and I didn't realize that they were putting me in some kind of MK Ultra program.
That's
trauma-based mind control.
They want to drive you in to hopefully get you maybe in that rabbit hole, and that's all you talk about, where you can get completely dismissed and marginalized. But MK Ultra is real; it's a real thing, folks.
Absolutely.
And that program and their tactics and so forth is still in play. Everything is in play. Everything. You think they banned COINTELPRO in the 70s?
Yeah.
No, they rebranded it. It's COPS program, old whore, new dress, and they're targeting millions of Americans in plain sight. Now, these a lot of these.
I didn't know what it was.
See, Lorraine, people said this is akin to witchcraft, and I want to give you my take on that. And yes, it is. I understand that witchcraft is an element of Satanism, of lost people that don't know God, and people that are lost, even fake Christians that profess to know God but don't. They're just putting on a show. That is an element of Satanism. They're lost. You can't serve two masters. Either they're serving God or they're serving the devil. It's not 5 or 6 to choose from. It's God or the devil, period. This program is completely evil. And so anything that's done in this program, of course, is going to appear, some things is witchcraft. That's what all of it comes from the devil himself. And so that's why you see the different faces of Satan in this targeting.
Yes, well, and I have photos of all of this too. I have the letter M burned in my tree. They did the same thing here in Kentucky.
Wow.
But I actually cut part of that tree down here, so you can't really see it anymore. Right. But I didn't know, I never heard of MK Ultra. You don't understand. Let me back up to the kind of person that I was. Okay. I was busy all the time. I'm not political, didn't watch TV, and I did not vote. Mm-hmm. Okay? What I did not know the difference between a Republican and a Democrat. I didn't care. I was clueless. I was one of those clueless Americans who just worked my ass off trying to support my daughter and go to school, keep a beautiful home. Okay? Had no interest in any of it. I did not know what the FBI did for a living. I didn't know what the CIA did. I honestly, I did not know. I didn't know.
I'm telling you.
I just knew
that
they were.
now, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm overly educated on the topic now, but back then, I didn't know. I didn't know what the program was. I didn't know any of it. I didn't know what MK Ultra was. But I'm astute, and I'm observant, and I'm also spiritual, and I know what witchcraft is. Okay, I studied symbols. Because I was a professional astrologer. Okay. So I study the planets and the planetary motions and stuff like that. So when you're studying this, you come across other things that you may or not be interested in, but they're symbolic. These are symbols. I know that there's.
So would it suffice it to say that you don't believe the Earth's flat?
I don't really know. I don't know. I'm not even going to entertain that.
Well, if it is, I think I'm close to the edge. But go ahead.
I think that we're all spherical. That's what I think. I think we're spherical because if the Earth is flat, then all the other planets are flat, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. But we've been lied to from history. We've been lied to about everything.
Yeah, like the moon landing.
Oh.
Pearl Harbor, 9/11.
And you know what? I'm so upset. about the moon landing because that was my birthday.
Yeah,
I was so back then like, oh, they landed on the moon on my birthday.
I
Like I was
know.
so I'm no.
My papa, he this is at North Alabama, and he was a a moonshiner, a mechanic, alcoholic, and a bunch of other things. And he had a few quirks. In daylight savings time, he never would change his clocks. He said, "I'm not going for that." At the same time, I'm not changing that. It didn't make sense to him. And he said, and didn't nobody land on the moon? Everybody thinks that's crazy. And, as kids, we kind of laughed at him and thought he was crazy. And, oh, Lord, little did I know.
It always seemed
The
a
wisdom.
little fishy to me, but again, I don't pay attention to these things. Life is too busy,
Right.
So I'm getting back to New Jersey. This is going through 2015, and then my house had been broken into several times, clearly broken into. But what happened was, in New Jersey, everybody has like a garage that's attached to their house, and they use those zappers, garage door opener.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't lock the interior door because they figure,
those things are easy to hack.
They drive. I know. Well, I found out the hard way. People would drive into their garage, close the garage door, go into their house. And I did that for years, except if I were going away for more than a day. And then I'd lock everything up. So my neighbor down the block told me, she says, I saw this really strange guy out of place. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever. He's just hanging out on the corner. I said, well, did you call the police? She said, no. And then she just starts talking about home break-ins. And she said,
oh, yeah.
She was talking about home break-ins.
Wasn't that a coincidence?
What?
I said, that was a coincidence, wasn't it?
It was just a coincidence. And she's not somebody like I knew for a long time, just somebody I became acquainted with, recently. But she said, people are forgetting to lock their interior door. And
nobody does it.
Using the garage door opener and just coming into homes. Right. And I said, what? Right. I said, I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
So what happened was the first time I closed my interior door, it was broken into.
Wow.
The whole door jamb was cracked, striation marks on the deadbolt, all the paint was torn off. I called the police.
Wow.
They sent the police. Yeah, I know.
And you thought calling the police was the thing to do, didn't you?
Well, a home break-in, right?
Yeah, of course. That's what I always thought, but oh, Lord.
Right, well, this is what happened. Okay, so the first group of police come, and it's street theater. There's a woman and a guy. They're throwing their hands up in the air. Oh, my God, he's cleaning the floor. Well, I called my garage door guy to change the pin. So he's there changing the pin. She's like, she's cleaning up the evidence. I said, I'm not cleaning up the evidence. Oh, my God. The door's right here.
Did they dust for fingerprints?
They did nothing.
I'm surprised they didn't. The theater, they go all out.
The female, she says, oh, you have cats? I'm allergic to cats. And she split. They sent another officer. Okay? Now, I know this officer. Well, he's the only black officer in the Manalapan police, and he's the only one that I always thought was so good, that he was non-corruptible. All right? So he shows up. So I know he's part of them.
Yeah. He
shows up without a badge, without his ID, without his name, and never gives me an incident number.
Right.
So I call my lawyer, and I said, he says, you got to go get that stuff. Write a letter. Well, it was Reggie Grant. Okay. Reggie Grant. And he was there. And then what he had the audacity to say, he looked at my door jamb that was cracked off, paint cracked off, striation. He said, your house wasn't broken into.
You imagine.
Yeah, your house wasn't broken into. I was a locksmith before I became a police officer. I kid you not. I'm not. This is exactly what he said.
Right.
Could you imagine? You're living alone. And to find that your house is broken into.
That's what they do. They're going to gaslight you every time.
Well, but see, the thing is, before that, all this weird stuff was happening in my house. And the only way I could describe it is cognitive dissonance. I had deadbolts. I had security cameras. I had a house alarm. I had everything imaginable that you would need to detect a home break-in. None of them triggered anything.
Right.
So then when my house was broken into and then I was gaslighted like that, I was like in panic mode. I immediately changed all the deadbolts. Guess what? House was broken into again.
Yeah, you may as well. And folks, let me tell you, when you're targeted, I don't even lock my door most of the time. And of course, you know, it's different for a single woman, but I try to create the idea that maybe I'm not even there, hoping somebody would stumble in. But that's the reason I do it. But when you're gone, it matter how many locks you put on there. I've seen people that can get in a lock, a deadbolt, a padlock quicker than you can get in it with a key, and pick it quicker than you get in it with a key.
Yes, they do that here in Kentucky. They're so bold here that they unlock the doors and leave them unlocked.
Yeah.
Just to let me know that they were here.
Oh yeah, they're going to leave something. They'll come in your house. That they leave something where you know they've been there, and that's with everything they do. That's why they follow you, and that's why the colors they park the cars at your house, and jingle their keys and whistle all this crap and this thing. They want you to be aware of what they're doing to you. And that's the only way it works, to destroy you psychologically, and then of course that destroys your physically.
Absolutely. Stress is cumulative.
Right. Yes. And long term, I just did an article on that.
Yes.
Long term, a person that is aware of being under surveillance 24/7, just under surveillance. Not any of this, not the break-in and the poisonings and the all this other stuff. It has irreparable. It causes irreparable damage to that individual. They absolutely diminish psychologically and then physically their whole life, and their personal being absolutely disintegrates long term. And that is that's what we're talking about.
Yes, I read an article on my channel about that with in Stasi, Germany, called Zersetzung, and they with the people that were under surveillance also.
Yeah, I've read that as well.
The lack of joy, anxiety, depression, all of that.
Right.
Because to think about this for a minute, you have an intimate partner, and you know that some pervert or a group of perverts,
you better believe it,
that are watching you
with a capital P, folks.
Yeah, capital P, exactly. Yeah, and the P stands for a lot of things. You know, yeah,
it does.
So anyway, getting back to this home break-in was around 2016. Shortly after that, it happened again, and then there was an attempted. It was at 2:00 in the morning. My cameras got it. My cats alerted me, and it was the installed. Let me backtrack. You know, because I lived there for 30 years as original owner, most of the people around me started to move out as their children grew. And I was going to be one of those people soon too, as my daughter graduated school and went to graduate school. I was getting ready to sell my house. So literally during this time, I'm renovating my house, renovating my bathrooms, new screens, new tile, new bathroom, new kitchen, furniture, just everything imaginable. Patio pavers. I spent so much money renovating the house, knowing that I was preparing to sell it after living there all these years.
Right.
And what people were destroying everything.
I know it.
I incurred more than $300,000 in damages. And then the Manalapan Police Department
are responsible for it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Because when I called my insurance company, the insurance adjuster to come over, and I had everything played out, out for them, photos and stuff. The Manalapan police broke into my house and stole my folder with my antiques.
Yep.
I collect antiques and
me too. They got a tractor trailer load for me.
I had an umbrella policy on my house, $1 million umbrella policy, cover my antiques and everything. They stole the folder with all the photos of my furniture and my antiques. They stole it. And when I showed the police officer, that Reggie Grant guy, I opened up my closet. I said, my closet is completely disheveled. Somebody had gone in there, took everything out, stuffed it back in.
Yeah. They're absolutely pathetic, demonic maniacs.
Yes.
And the sad thing about it, Lorraine, is when we talk about this and people listening, and especially in rural communities where everybody knows everybody. But let me tell you, folks, you think you know everybody. There may be a couple of people in town that does know everybody, and they keep them isolated. But yes, deacons, preachers, mayors, the chief, the sheriff, your insurance agent, and on and on and on. These people are involved in this debacle here.
Yes.
This is the holistic approach to policing, which simply means everybody participating, members of the community,
yes,
private companies, public companies, elected officials, etc., working together to have a better community, a safer community. They're talking points. Everybody goes along with it. But the reality is that's just talking points. Your community is not safe. It's not better. And so crime's gone down. That's because they turned the volume down. And yes, when they want to get something, they turn it up. They control the crime. They control the drugs. And you're going to see a lot of that in Eastern Kentucky, and especially in Appalachia, where they have absolutely destroyed communities all through there up into West Virginia and those areas with methamphetamine. And it is absolutely it's a problem. It's a problem up there where you are.
Yes, yes. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit to 2018, actually July 25, 2018, about 9 months before. Well, let's back up a little bit. After my long-term neighbor, Andy and Chris, moved out next door at 54 Sutton Drive, they moved out. They sold their house to Steve and Vicky, but they didn't really live there. They lived
Steve and Vicky. That sounds like Barbie and Ken. Do they have last names?
Yeah. There's Sarantino.
Sarantino, okay.
Yeah, so they lived next door for exactly a year. I didn't see her very much. He was there most of the time, and he was spying on me. He would actually hide out in the shrubs on the side of his house.
Do what?
He would hide out in the shrubs on the side of his house when he was watching me.
Oh, Lord.
I kid you not.
That ain't so.
He would jump onto my porch and open up my front door, and he stole my cosmetics.
Community-oriented policing is the home, is the landing strip for perverts, NAMBLA, and everybody else. They love it, boy.
I call them the real estate mobbers, because they basically installed to destroy my house.
Did you ever confront the peeping Tom or the creeper, whatever the hell he was doing?
Oh, I did a couple of times.
What did he say? I was in here looking for something.
No, I didn't catch him that way. There was one time he's watching me on his phone in the backyard, and I decide I'm really going to startle this guy because I never talked to him, right? So I walk out in my nightgown in the backyard.
Oh, Lord. That's brave.
I walk over to the fence and I yelled over. I said, "Hi, Steve."
Oh,
He
God.
literally fell off his chair.
Did he?
You know, like a caricature. He fell off his chair. Then there was another time he's following me from the shrub on the side of the house. And I realized what he was doing. So I maneuvered from my backyard and I walked through my house, through the garage. And I was hiding out in my garage. My garage door was open. And then I peeked over and I see him hiding in the shrub. And then I walked out like a little bit quickly and he saw me and he just turns his back and he walked away. And then another day, like I walked across the street to see if anybody else could see this loser hanging out in the shrubs. And from across the street,
they didn't see anything, did they?
Couldn't see.
No, of course not. You were imagining all this, Lorraine.
What?
You imagined all of it. That's
I lived there for 30 years. I know
that's the deal. You know, that's the way they dismiss the victims. Is you don't know, they're seeing everything, aliens. And, they're crazy.
I knew all of my neighbors who lived there. We all moved in around the same time. We all had kids that grew up together. And then when they moved out and the new people came in, you become very suspicious of the new people coming in for a good reason. They were the ones that were set up by their informants.
Yeah, they move them in. They move them in close to you.
Yes,
and they pay for the rent. And they're doing that to me, and and I've got to move them out about as fast as they move them in. Yeah, I promise you that.
Well, they would allow their children to take their motorized scooters and drive them up and down my driveway. Never their driveway, only my driveway. And then a year to the date, they moved directly across the street.
Yep.
The new perps, the new informants moved in. And that's where I want to get to. Okay. Because this is where I've got the evidence.
All right.
So they moved in. They closed July of 2017. The new informants, the husband and wife with the new baby. From the time they moved in, well, first of all, they left the house vacant for about a month. Who leaves a house vacant for a month before you move in? It was very weird.
Weird. You know, they do it here a lot. It's it's a revolving door. You know, these real estate people and people that have rental homes and so forth that are working with this deal. They keep these deals fixed where they can shuffle folks around and it's a very sophisticated measures that they take, folks, because what we're battling against is Big Brother. These fusion centers give them all the data they need, the mass surveillance. There's nothing that any person in the United States of America, anybody, has this private. Your text, your emails, everything. Nothing is private. They know. And so all that to say this. So a targeted individual gets evicted. They have to move, whatever reason. Can't find a place. They might had some prospects, but those fall through. They circumvent those things, and they will absolutely channel that person and get them into the property. If people buy the property they want them to buy, and they buy the place, they move to a new area, only to find out they're surrounded by stalking, perpetrating creeps.
It's like that here.
That's how it works.
Absolutely. I didn't know. What did I know? Yeah. So anyway, I want to backtrack a little bit about Steve and Vicky, because when they were moving across the street, and it wasn't just Steve and Vicky, her brother was living with them. And then they had a guy from Connecticut who looked like a thug. I believe he's one of the people who was destroying my house. It's like they brought him as a contractor. But on the day that they're moving out, and they had very little things, they were hardly living there. They were just there to surveil me.
Right.
I'm outside gardening, and I'm talking on the phone with my mother. So I put the phone down, so I'm hands-free. So he walks by me. I said, "Oh, so you're moving across the street. It won't be so as easy for you to harass me from diagonally across the street." And he says, "Well, you're crazy."
Really?
I said, "What?" Yeah, he said, this is what he said. He says, "Everybody knows you're crazy."
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
I've never had conversations with this guy.
I've heard those same remarks.
He says, "Everybody knows you're crazy."
I can't get to them though. They're backing up when they say it, but yeah.
Yeah, then he walks away to get more stuff, comes back. I'm talking to my mother, hands-free. He said, "See what I mean? She's talking to herself."
Absolutely.
I said, "You stupid idiot. I'm talking to my mother. She's on speakerphone right here."
Yeah.
Shut up in a hot minute.
Wow. What a pathetic moron.
What a moron.
Yeah.
So they'll move across the street.
Yeah.
The new people move in. I'm going to say they probably move in August, maybe even September. So they left the place vacant for a long time.
Did you get any pictures or videos, anything of these people?
No.
Didn't know to do that then.
I have a letter that I wrote to them, and then their response. They actually stole the response from my desk, my office. Yeah, but I was smarter than them because I immediately scanned it when I received it into my computer. It's on my YouTube channel, by the way. So,
okay.
Yeah. So so what they did is they would follow me when I would be gardening, and I was a gardener. I was out there every day. She would come out with her screaming kid, screaming, and just follow me. Like if I were here, she would be across from me here. If I go to the corner, she'd move to the corner.
What, she screamed. Who was she screaming at?
No, her child. Her child.
Oh my God. So she had her heathen with her.
Holding the kid, ignoring the kid, watching me on her phone, pointing the phone at me. So while my house is listed for sale, okay, and this is a long process. It took me 3 years to sell that house. Unbeknownst to me, they blacklisted my house.
Of course.
Contact every one of my agents to not sell it. And people who were going to make an offer on it,
they got to them.
They got to them.
Absolutely.
And told them the house was off.
Real stuff, folks.
They're doing it here.
America.
They're doing it. Well, at some point, I would love to have another conversation about Kentucky because I really want to expose these efforts here. And I will give you all the names of everybody. Yeah.
You say Chucky?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Okay.
Right here.
Talk about, we'll get into Kentucky.
That'll be another time. But okay, so these people harassing me unmercifully, but I ignore them. I have nothing to do with them. I would see weird people coming in their house. They would also have a DJ truck parked outside, a big black DJ truck.
What kind of truck?
Like a disc jockey, music. But there was never any music going on there.
Oh, I got you. So are you talking about like the vans that are like the radio stations have?
Yes, a big van.
Oh,
always
Lord. Well, isn't that an original deal there? Yeah.
So, but anyway, they either had one of their landscapers or deliberately damaged my landscaping.
Yep.
It wasn't like a little bit. It was like 6 feet into it, and I had a for sale sign on my house.
Yeah.
My house was listed for sale. They damaged the front of my property. So rather than confront them directly, I wrote them a letter. I said, "Your landscaper damaged my property. I've got photos." I said, "It needs to be repaired." I said, "I can repair it myself and bill you for the damages, or you can pay for the damages outright and hire somebody yourself. No big deal." They get the letter and send me a response. I get a response from the guy.
Yeah.
The last name is spelled Ishkahan. And he writes, and I don't have the letter in front of me. I should have grabbed it. It's one sentence. And it's to the effect of, "I hope you weren't harassing me." Something like that. Gaslighting me, turning it around to me.
The landscaper did this?
No, my neighbor.
Your neighbor?
the neighbor who I wrote the letter to, who damaged my property. So I wrote them a letter. I said, you know, your landscaper damaged my property.
I got you. And she said, I hope you're not gaslighting me.
I said, no. That's not, no. I sent them a letter asking to negotiate the payments of the repair. Instead of being neighborly and saying, oh, I'm so sorry, what happened? They send me a 1-sentence letter back in the mail. And it says something like, I hope you weren't harassing me, or something.
I got you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm floored. So July 25, 2018, I am going to speak to my painter, who now I find out is a perp and is involved in all of it.
Yeah.
I'm talking to him at my mailbox. My neighbor, the girl, the female, walks out of her house. This is all set up. Walks out of her house, and I turn to walk back to my house, my front door. And she turns to me and says, what are you looking at? She says, what are you looking at?
Yeah. So, honey, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
She's a provocateur. Now, meanwhile, she already had this letter about the vandalism to my property, damage to my property while it's listed for sale. She sends me a nasty note, 1 sentence back. She turns to me and says, what are you looking at? I said, you know what I'm looking at. I said, you damaged my property, blah, blah, blah. She said, do you have anything else to say before I call the police? Yeah.
That was the extent. Call my handler, and the police or Johnny on the spot. If they not gonna listen to anything you got to say, the only thing they're gonna do is tell you how many different ways you're wrong, and that you're gonna go to jail if you say it again.
Now, she was on her driveway.
Right.
I was on my driveway. I never walked to her driveway. She never walked to mine. She yells over to me. I yell back, and I shut up. After she says, do you have anything else to say before I call the police? I walk inside. I know that she's going to call the cops. So I get my letters ready. The letter that I wrote to her about the damage.
Right.
The letter that I received back. Which they were, I guess the cops were deeply annoyed that I was able to quickly print out that copy when they stole it from my desk. They didn't want evidence, right? So I see the cops pull up in her driveway. They talk to her briefly. They come over to me, and I'm ready. I'm ready for them with the front door. But I pull out my digital recorder, install a new battery, test it, play it back, works fine. Holding it in my hand, somewhat concealed. Walk outside. They didn't even have to ring the doorbell. I walk outside with my papers. And they said, your neighbor complained. I said, well, she's falsifying an incident. And of course, at this point, I don't know what she told them.
Right.
I don't find out until I get the FOIA request, the papers back. Okay. So I give them the letter that I wrote, the letter I received back.
Right.
But before all that, they look at my hands. They said, are you recording us? I said, sure. And I just start talking, which I have a right to record the police. Right. They took my information and left. I told them what happened, left. Go back inside, go to play back the recording. The battery is dead. And even my test recording has disappeared. They wiped it clean. I go to my security cameras on my porch. Zero.
Same thing here with Ring. I had Ring cameras, and I've seen it in real time. Be on saved video clips and be looking at it, and that clip just disappear. And I've had other people that I assigned to monitor my cameras while I was away that were documenting things in real time that was reporting the same thing. Said your some of your footage is disappearing. Someone is hooked into it and manipulating it every time. I've got tons of footage with law enforcement, stalking, swatting, and all that stuff on my property. And without fail, all of them are distorted. They all the footage has problems with it where they electronically interfered with it.
Yes. Yeah. So the police officer that was there that day was Officer Battagliano and Officer Diesel, Dessel. So those two officers were the ones that took my report.
Uh-huh.
So they bring it back to the police department, and they obviously give it to the lieutenant. So now I don't really know what these officers wrote, but they could have written the truth, and it was changed by the lieutenant. And
of course.
So I'm not blaming these officers, but what I am blaming these officers for is killing the battery on my digital recorder, not allowing me to record them.
Right.
So they were all in on it to a certain degree, and then wiping clean my cameras.
Yeah.
So these two officers were involved.
I'll tell you.
So now I FOIA request.
Right.
I request the incident report. I want to know what the blondie next door said to the police about me. Mm-hmm. She said that I cursed at her.
Yeah.
With her infant son in the car.
Yeah. And you didn't.
There was no child in the car.
Yeah.
He came out and pretended to go to the trunk, like a hatchback of her car.
I always play it pretending.
Her kid was in the car in the house.
Yeah.
Her child was in the house. I did not curse at her, but even if I did, cursing is not a crime.
Look, if they'd have said that about I guarantee you I did on purpose.
Yeah. But I didn't.
That's nothing compared to what that child is being subjected to with their perversions and tactics of torturing other human beings.
Yes. It was all a lie. It was all a lie. And when I get the report back, and I'll give you, it was incident report number 18MN 1919-494. And I'll tell you what it said. It said that I was a terror threat. Big bold print. Citizen dispute, and that I displayed disorderly.
Yeah, they completely paint. If folks, when you're having these problems, and I'm telling you that one of the biggest demographics of targeted individuals are single women, and then veterans,
yes,
homeless people, and of course anyone that has a felony,
yes,
and probably we could put a few more in there.
Yes,
maybe a true person that's a pro-lifer, they get targeted.
Yes,
that's
I was 60. I was 60 years old.
Yeah,
at that time. And then and mind you, I lived there for 30 years.
Wow.
And this one is living there 9 months.
And now you're a terrorist threat.
And they take her testimony over mine.
Of course.
That's incredible.
They're gonna make you look crazy on paper every time, Lorraine.
Right. So that happened. And after that I wrote them a letter. I wrote to the chief of police, Michael Fountain. I wrote to Lieutenant Thomas Mantle at the time. He's a captain. I wrote to Captain Edward Neitz, who's now the chief of police there.
Uh-huh.
I wrote to them. I said, could you please describe these, I don't know what they call them, this terror threat. What does that mean?
Yeah. They couldn't tell you.
They never responded.
Of course not.
They did not respond to any, even via FOIA. They did not respond. And this is very important. None of the incidents of my house break-ins, the vandalism, this ever made it to the police blotter. Everything makes it to the police blotter. If little Johnny down the block steals an apple from the neighbor, that's going to be in the police blotter.
Do you know why, Lorraine? Let me tell you why they don't answer you. Why many people do FOIAs and only get either they get nothing or they get partials, and why nothing is done when crimes are committed against them and all on down the line is, number one, once you're put on that list, the first thing that is recognized and accepted by these oath takers, oath breakers, is that your constitutional rights have officially been chilled.
Yes.
Another word for that would be rendered null and void.
Yes.
They're not going to tell you that. Well, yeah, you have constitutional rights, but no, you don't. Once they have put you on the list, the Constitution no longer applies to this individual.
Right.
And we can violate every single right, and we can do it and do it relentlessly.
Yes.
We'll go through the motions. We'll take the road, but every time the victim is going to be wrong. They got raped. They were wearing short skirts. Right. And it's going to be something. The victim is always going to be marginalized and dismissed as the actual criminal.
Well, the reason I want to highlight this particular incident is because I have the proof in writing in their report that they labeled me a terror threat.
Wow.
And at that point,
I'd like to see a copy of that.
Yes, I read it on my channel. I'll have to go get it. I've got the incident report number.
You, just take a picture of it and send it to me.
They labeled me a terror threat. 60-year-old woman walking on my driveway.
Right.
Refused to answer me about what it is or change the report.
And they're not labeling the terror threat is the chief of police that's providing drugs and guns and sex trafficking, human trafficking, destroying property, all this stuff. That's the terrorist. But she's the terrorist because she dared complain about it.
That's right.
You're supposed to sit down, Lorraine, and curl up in the fetal position.
Not me, honey.
And close yourself and isolate yourself and take your torture like a grown-up. Don't say nothing. I said,
off camera, the reason I've been touching my eyes is that they've been radiating my eyes. I actually had radiation burns, especially on my left eye, since the middle of May. It's a real problem. I mean, this is serious stuff. But the reason a lot of targeted people say, well, I can't prove it. When I FOIA request the FBI, they say, we can't confirm or deny you're on any list. And I got the same damn letter from the FBI.
Well, look, I've done the same thing. I've done FOIAs to the FBI on myself. And to all those agencies, it comes back, we don't have any record. None.
Right.
Knowing that's a damn lie.
Well, in 2008,
they don't have any record until they try to charge you with something, and then that record becomes from nothing to 10 miles long. I think what they did here is I had been on a list already because this had been going on for years before. Right.
They probably need to renew a grant. They knew that my house was going to sell, and it did sell. It sold the next year.
Yeah. I think they do those grants every 2 to 3 years.
Yes. So this is in July of 2018. They labeled me a terror threat with disorderly conduct.
Okay.
Yeah.
A disorderly conduct.
Total.
Because you told somebody to get the hell out of your yard. Now you're a terrorist threat. Total BS. Yeah.
And I'm going to say it again. It was Lieutenant Thomas Mansell who's involved.
And we're gonna get him and those other pathetics on the Brady list, and we're gonna expose them. And for those listening, and especially at Manalapan County, these are all in that area. You get this stuff.
Yes.
Put it in your social groups. Expose these people because we're gonna do it. We're not gonna stop.
What they did to me is unconscionable. So let's fast forward to December. Okay? 6 months later, they start with the torture again. But meanwhile, my house had been broken into several times before. My pets were poisoned. They were hit with directed energy weapons. My cat, on Christmas, they stole her, took her eyes out of her head. Yeah. Threw her out in the rain on Christmas Day. I've got distinct photos on my Facebook page.
And when I tell you, folks, these people have sold their soul to the devil. Now, they didn't have a formal ceremony, hail Satan and all that stuff. That's TV. When they took part in this program and played their little part, whatever it is, ever how small they think it is, knowing your conscience, you know right from wrong, knowing that this, this seems a little screwed up, but they're saying it's okay, but hey, I'll get used to it. You have effectively sold your soul to the devil. Yes. That's what you've done. And these are the characteristics of that happening: destruction, lies, rumors, smear tactics. All of these things are elements of the devil, not elements of someone that has a moral compass. And these folks do not have a moral compass. They do not. And I'm talking to all of them, whether it's Grady Judd in Polk County, Florida, or Chris Naco in Pasco County, or that moron at Manalapan, New Jersey.
Yes.
We're going to call a spade. Yes.
Well, what happened was on December 10, 2018, so this is 6 months after the provocateur, informant, perpetrator that lived next door at 54 Sutton Drive, next door to me, in a home I lived in for 30 years as original owner, harassed me and reported me to the police and lied through her teeth. 6 months later, I get a phone call from Lieutenant Thomas Mansell. He said, could we stop by with a property loss statement? I said, you've never given me one before. He said, oh, yes, we have. I said, no.
You're mistaken,
before. I said, I would have it. I would have filled it out. I would have had copies up. No.
Yeah.
I said, you want to drop it or drop it off? I thought they were just coming over to drop it off. They were literally down the block. Hours go by because they had their little plan for me.
Mm-hmm.
So Officer Joyner shows up with a body cam, by the way. Very important. He's wearing a body cam.
Yeah.
Officer Joyner, December 10, 2018. I had been up all night with my cat, Cinnamon, who was being tortured with directed energy weapons. I watched him walking across the floor and getting hit, trying to get up, getting hit again, trying to get up, and then he dies early in the morning. So then these criminals at the Manalapan Police Department call me up to bring me a property loss statement, obviously knowing that they just tortured my cat to death. He's like 8 years old.
Yeah. Now you're on a farm now, aren't you?
I'm on a farm. I also have a 501c3 nonprofit cat rescue. It's called Freya's Cat Rescue.
So you got how many cats you got there?
I don't talk about how many. I mean, I just
okay. You got a lot of animals there.
I have a lot of. I could tell you how many were killed since I moved here.
I mean, how many?
28.
My gosh.
28 cats.
Folks.
There were burns. There were burns.
Yeah.
Full burns in the face of my cat Chicklet. They did the same burn to my rooster, the same burn to another cat, the same burn to a dog down the block. They're practicing their weapons on my animals.
I had a cat that belonged to my sister that passed. She was only 52. And he lived in the house and big fat, he'd been fixed, so he was a fat cat, and those fat cats will live forever. But he started doing something different. That he would get up on the bed at night and he would come the top of my head and would curl up around the top of my head. And I'd try to move him because, he was big and hot. It was like having a heating pad.
Right,
but and I didn't know why he was doing that. Well, then he started having symptoms and was sick, and I took him to the vet. He said, I don't need to run. I can run some tests and stuff. And he said, this cat has tumors, cancer. And so it's a horrible story. I won't finish it, but that cat, animals are smart. On his last day, his last day, he blocked the door where I would go out, and he got in front of it. He's never done it, and laid down and was looking at me and crying. And, it was awful. But I know now, and I ascertained then that that animal was instinctively trying to protect me, and he was getting the brunt.
That's right.
And I now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that I was heavily electronically targeted. I talk about it seldom. I've talked about it a few times in that particular area. And
I can validate that, because here in Kentucky, they radiate me to death in my bed, and I've got a small house. There's nowhere for me to go. Every animal that I have brought into my house, into my bedroom, they have killed, including.
I hate that for you, Lorraine. That's you're telling so many other people's story that animal lovers, like myself and you, and I just it is. It's just really it's hard to imagine.
It's unbelievable what they do to animals, and it's
folks
not just
know people these people, and these are the people that you thought were good people. No, they're not. And people that do things knowing that they're harming not just innocent women and children and families, human beings, but they target the most vulnerable.
Yes.
The elderly.
Yes.
Those that have handicaps, physical disabilities.
Yes.
And they target animals. And I'm telling you, I just believe, Lorraine, that there's a special place in hell for those people.
Well, absolutely. In New Jersey, they broke the neck of my canary. And yes, I had a canary with all those cats. They suffocated my chinchilla. They poisoned my cats. I had cats recovering in cages from being spayed and neutered, and they would do something to their eyes. I would go out and come back, and the cats would be scared, petrified, not allow me near them, and their eyes would be all bloodshotty and whatever. So they would do horrible stuff while they're confined to a cage.
I'm telling you.
Anyway, getting back to this property loss statement that Lieutenant Thomas Mansell said they had to drop off. Officer Joyner shows up with a woman. She's got no badge on. She's not an officer. She's got like a clipboard or whatever.
Right.
I asked her name, wouldn't give me her name, didn't know her last name, didn't know where she worked. I did say her. He said, "Are you an officer?" And she would just shook her head no. Wouldn't talk about it. And Officer Joyner is wearing a body cam. I made note of that. So you could see he's got a piece of paper in his hands, but he doesn't give it to me right away. That's not what the agenda was. The agenda was not to give me the loss statement. So I have papers in my hand too. And I bring them to the tree whose branches were sawed off and burned. It was obvious. But the woman, her name was, I find out, it's Tina Booth from Monmouth, PESS. Was a fairly new person there. She was an assessor, allegedly a mental health assessor. So I'm literally out there with them for about 10 minutes, show them the branches, tell them that I got ripped off by $4,000 from my painter. So she says to me, stupid question. And it started to make sense after like my intuition kicked in. She says, well, what are your sleep habits like? I said, well, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but I didn't tell them why. It was none of their business about my cat, that I was up with my cat all night.
Right.
I said, I don't usually get a lot of sleep. So based upon that, and then she turned to me, she says, the officers told me that you file a lot of reports. Yeah. I said, well, I've got a lot of break-ins and vandalism.
Right.
So I'm getting a bad vibe. So I start walking towards my front door, where all my cameras are too. And I give them my papers. They're still holding on to this property loss statement. Don't give it to me. I get a bad vibe. I said, okay, I said, I've got stuff to do. I go into my house, turn around to close my door. Tina Booth holds on to the door handle on the other side and pulls it towards her. I pull it back to lock it. She pulls it harder and they break into my house.
Wow.
No warrants. No, nothing.
Hey, yeah, they have warrants. That's all mumbo jumbo. I have to have warrants. You think they search warrants don't have to be signed? None of this stuff, folks. That's just something.
Oh, I'm traumatized. You know, I'm traumatized at this point.
Yeah.
My house is listed for sale.
Mm-hmm.
My cat died early in the morning. My house had been broken into so many times. My neighbor reports me to them.
What kind of neighborhood were you in?
I was in an affluent neighborhood.
Affluent neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. She wasn't in the hood.
No, I was not. No. Manalapan is Monmouth County. The houses now, the medium price is $500,000.
There you go.
There are $1 million, $2 million, $5 million homes there.
Right.
Big home. I had a 5-bedroom house, just to give you perspective. I had a 5-bedroom house on half an acre of land. And I renovated everything, the bathrooms, kitchen, installed patio pavers, new landscaping, and all of that. Excuse me. So I'm traumatized. The first thing I do is I call my mother on the phone. So she's on one phone. She's on a handheld phone, and then I've got a landline. Call another woman who is an alleged friend, an alleged targeted person.
Yeah.
I'll tell you her.
There's plenty of them.
Connie Robinson in Connecticut. She's speaking to them, yelling at them, get out of her house. This is against the law, blah, 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 blah. I'm recording this. And at the time, I believe that she's a friend because I've done the same for her, right? So she finally hangs up. My mother's talking to the officer, and unbeknownst to me, because my upstairs hardwire system catches everything outside.
Right.
But they wipe clean everything inside. Yep. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Including Tina breaking into my house because I have a camera pointed at my front door. And they wiped that clean. They destroyed the evidence. The Manalapan, New Jersey Police Department destroyed my evidence. And when I FOIA requested the body cam.
Yeah, we're coming, Manalapan. We're coming.
Yes. They broke into my house with Tina Booth. I filed a complaint against her with her manager. I filed a complaint against the Manalapan Police Department, 61-page complaint. But let me just back up before I get to the whole complaint process. Officer Joyner comes in, and then on my driveway, there's Sergeant Carey, Officer Casella, and somebody else, and an EMS truck. And then Tina Booth.
That's another one.
Has, and my camera showed me this later. They have an SUV out there with a Tina Booth's backup, smoking incessantly on my driveway, putting her cigarettes out on my driveway, interfering with my UPS delivery. I only know this after the fact when I reviewed the footage, after I returned from the hospital. So they come in. Tina Booth is in my dining room with her little clipboard. She says, well, I think you need to come with us because you need to have an assessment. I said,
really? They tried to make her at you?
Yeah, they tried to. I'll tell you what happened. I said, she says, well, I think that you've got some problems or whatever. And I said, really? I said, by what criteria did you make that determination? You have to understand, at this point, I have more education in psychology than she does. She only has some training to be an assessor.
Right.
I've got an undergraduate and a master's degree in psychology.
Yeah.
And my undergraduate was an abnormal.
That's another thing. That's another thing they don't like, but I tell you, they don't like it. It is they, if you've got just a slight bit of education, they hate that.
Well, I was also a notary public in New Jersey and New York.
Yep.
I was a corporate human resources manager, so I had two human resources certifications, one
Right.
from Cornell. I had gone through my drug and alcohol certification counseling. All I had to do was go for my, free, I had to work for free
Right.
sponsorship. I wasn't going to do, but I
Right.
actually I did volunteer work at the local alcohol and drug committee for 6 years, unpaid. And then
It's
I
like an
was,
internship or something.
no, I just volunteer.
Volunteer.
And then I
Okay.
became the chairperson. I was the chairperson for a year.
Mm.
So here I was doing all this community service. I actually serve food, for the disenfranchised, during Thanksgiving and stuff. I did a
Uh-huh.
lot of community service. I cared for feral cats for 16 years.
Yeah.
So they did this to me. They set me up with this Tina Booth, and I will report her every step of the way. She had no license.
Good.
She was newly hired. Her boss refused to give me her title or what she did. So what they did is Officer Joyner says, well, he says, you have a choice. You can come with us voluntarily or involuntarily.
Yeah.
There was an EMS truck outside.
Really.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm doing this. I know I'm going to be home soon. Like, I just know.
Mm.
So I knew that if I said, I'm not going to go with you, he would have handcuffed me because he's a little fucker. I know that they would have handcuffed me in my house.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, I'll go voluntarily, but I need to lock up my house. I need to use the restroom. I need to feed my cats. He follows me to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I go to grab my handbag. He goes to take it from me.
Oh, yeah.
I said, you let go of my handbag. And then Officer Casella is inside trying to open up my slider door, which is dead bolted lock horizontally and vertically. I said, could you get off my door, please?
Really.
I'm going to break my door. It was a Pella door. It's like an expensive door. And so all this stuff, and I get packed up and stuff, and I tell my mother. So I go outside. The EMS truck is already there. They're waiting for me down the block. They pull up. I go in there, lock everything up. And there's an officer on my driveway that does not leave. My security cameras catch him there at least another 40 minutes.
Really? What was he doing?
They were inside my house. They were looking for evidence.
Oh, my God.
Evidence. Yeah.
I'm telling you, folks, you can't make this crap up.
Yeah,
you can't make it up. They're doing what they want, when they want, whoever they want. And
that's
let me tell you, and God forbid anybody start talking about it like you and I. They absolutely hate me, and I want them to keep hating me. I'm gonna keep it talking about it.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah, of course it is.
They did it to me. Totally unconscionable. To put me saying I'm a terror threat, to put me on a death list.
Yep. That's the facts,
take
folks.
My rights. Oh, no. Lieutenant Thomas Mantle, Edward Neese, Sergeant Carey, who ended up calling the hospital.
Yeah.
And putting on my report there, which, by the way, I never checked myself in, never signed anything. I don't have medical insurance, so I wasn't going to pay for anything. But they did try to charge my Medicare.
Yeah.
So that's fraud. It's all fraud. Everything that they did was fraudulent. So I only saw a nurse while I was there. I told the nurse that I'm there against my will, that I will be going home today.
Yeah.
They said that I had to give them urine. You want to know why? The Manalapan Police Department drug tested me.
Of course they did. I was wondering that didn't come up positive, mysteriously.
Well, okay, I need to back up. One, I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke weed. I don't do any drugs. I don't take an aspirin. I worked out 5 days a week at a local gym. I was probably in the best physical shape of my life in my 50s. Okay?
You're fit now. You look fit as a fiddle.
Oh, well, thank you. And I eat organic food. I don't eat meat. I don't drink soda. I don't eat hydrogenated vegetable oil. So I eat a clean, totally clean lifestyle.
Right.
Okay? So the fact that they drug tested me was humiliating.
Of course.
What they did to me was absolutely humiliating. I lived there for 30 years, and all of my neighbors saw them
do the perp walked you, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Absolutely.
So I will never shut up about Lieutenant Thomas Mansell, who's a criminal.
No, we're not going to shut up about it. I don't want you to shut up about it. We're going to ride this dog to the grave, folks.
Sergeant Carey calls the hospital to put in my notes. Well, she has 30 cats.
So
but
what?
Wait. But her house is clean. But what he failed to say was, she's got a 501c3 nonprofit cat rescue.
Right.
He was trapping.
Oh, yeah, they leave out those details.
She trapped her feral cats because she was moving. She was not going to leave her feral cats behind.
But you got to understand, Lorraine, these to be in law enforcement, that bar is real low. They have low IQs, and they're not playing with much. That is a statistical fact because they shy away from people with higher IQs because they say they're bored easily, and we can't keep them. You get somebody that's got single digit IQ and zero desires and aspirations in life other than to watch Bubba on a fishing show or hit bingo at a bingo parlor. They want them. Right. And if they got a fetish or if they're a Mason or in some other kind of crap, then that's a double threat there, and they'll bring them on in probably with rank.
Yeah, well, most of the police in New Jersey are Masons.
Yeah, of course.
You can see the emblems on the vehicles.
Yeah, Fruit Loop fraternity.
Yes,
of demons. And ain't nothing come out of a Mason's mouth. If their mouth's moving, ladies and gentlemen, they're telling you a damn lie, period. Yes.
So they took me to Central State Emergency Room, Central State Hospital. I was there for 6 hours. And while I was there, they drug tested me. I didn't know that. I was starving because I hadn't eaten. And I asked them for something to eat. And I mean, honestly, I just told you what I eat. I told you what my lifestyle is. They give me frosted flakes, black coffee, some orange juice, and it was just horrible. Like I said, I can't eat this. I can't eat this. Like you're gonna try to kill me with this food.
Yeah, you come to the South, they need to fatten you up or kill you because you got to get on the program.
Well, let me tell you, down here, like the women are they've got a little fat on their bodies for the most part.
Believe it. Come on to Mississippi.
It's the way they cook. I just tell you, like it's the way they cook.
Everything we can't eat it here in Mississippi unless it's fried. Well, fried, something's wrong with it.
Salt, overly salted, overly cooked, overly sugared.
That's right.
Cooked. Yeah.
If it don't raise my blood pressure, I want my money back.
Well, I like things like al dente, you know, like
I know. I can tell, and that you absolutely reflect that lifestyle that all should be more conscious of it. It is a lot of cases difficult, but I was 6 years a vegetarian for 6 years, and I'd smell chicken cooking. It did make me hungry, and I just absolutely was. It just one day it changed, and I ate a Big Mac. But I was at my best weight, that best shape I was ever in. I felt better. It's so a proper diet. I'm not saying that you have to be a vegan or a vegetarian, but a proper diet and exercise and supplementation. And I'm talking to everybody, but especially if you're targeted, because you're dealing with an overwhelming stress factor, and your body cannot defend and do what it was made to do if you're putting garbage in your body.
Absolutely. It's bad enough that I'm being radiated. Like my eyes are so bad. It's kind of concerning since this happened actually like a week after I had my an annual eye appointment, and everything was fine. And then a week later, I'm radiated, and I've got my eyes are like literally oozing and bloodshot and half the size. Like my eyes are usually like big, now they're like half the size, like slits.
It's probably something more
anyway,
sinister. There's probably something even deeper and sinister when you talk about your eyes, the eyes of the cat, and
yeah,
there's
it's the
probably,
symbolism.
huh?
It's the symbolism of the eyes.
Absolutely,
The eyes
right,
are the window
right.
to the soul.
Totally agree.
The eyes are the window to the soul,
yes.
and they don't want you to see.
They don't want no. That's right.
They want you to be blind.
That's right.
And what?
Absolutely.
So while I'm at the hospital, they drug test me. I have to wear this a gown, but before that, I ask for a paper and pencil. And this is for anybody out there that this happens to, that you're taken to a hospital, whatever. Make sure before they take away your phone, you photograph everything in your handbag. You get a piece of paper and write down everything that's in there of importance.
Right.
Fold it up, stick it in your sock. That's what I did. I folded up the piece of paper. I stuck it in my sock. They took away my handbag. They at some point took away my phone.
Right.
And they allowed me to use their phone. So I was on the phone with my mother. My mother was on the phone with them. My mother was threatening them with a lawsuit, all this stuff. My mother, at that point, she's in her 80s, comes down 3 hours. This is like a Friday night, I think it was. You know how they love to hold you over the weekend? So I was literally out in 6 hours. While I was there, I literally did nothing. I heard other people coming in. I spoke to a nurse twice. I never saw a doctor, never saw a psychiatrist, never saw a psychologist, only a nurse. When I got my report back, I saw that Sergeant Carey had called and left those 2 derogatory comments that she has 30 cats, but her house is clean. Like, what does that have to do with anything? He failed to say that my house is listed for sale and that all of those cats were recently trapped and being socialized to live in my house until I could move.
Yep.
I helped to tell them that. I kept telling the nurse, I said, I'm here against my will. This is retaliation by the Manalapan Police Department. My mother's going to be coming here to pick me up. They didn't really say anything about it. And then 6 hours later, my mother's there. They signed me out. It was after that I find out that I incurred $3,400 in invoices. Oh. I disputed every one of them. I filed a complaint with the EMS. I filed a complaint with the Central State. I filed a complaint with Monmouth PESS. I filed a complaint with the police department.
All the people are behind it, folks.
I pulled it all together. And then a few months later, with the help of a targeted female nurse who researched Tina Booth and said she doesn't even have a license. She says, you've got more experience than she does. I filed a 61-page complaint that I sent to you. I sent you part of it. To the Attorney General, New Jersey Criminal Investigations Division against the Manalapan Police Department for insurance fraud, medical fraud, psychiatric fraud, falsification of reports, stalking, harassment. I mean, I just compiled a list of all their violations. What they do is they send me a letter that they're going to send it to the prosecutor's office. Well, I had already gone to the prosecutor's office. Prosecutor sent me to the Attorney General. The prosecutor's office receives my complaint and sends it to the sheriff's office. Yep. Well, the sheriff already received the complaint from me. The sheriff sends it back to the Manalapan Police Department. Yep. My complaint with evidence. Yep. Who performed their own internal investigation. Yeah, of course. And found my complaint to be unfounded. I think that's the words that the Mississippi Highway Patrol used on a complaint. Unfounded. That's
They've got a small playbook, Lorraine.
Yes.
Lorraine, we have just about run out of time.
That's fine.
For this,
I got all the information that I
and that
needed in
is
there.
it is, and we could go all day, all night, and tomorrow, and on and on. And
Yes.
And so, for everybody to know, Lorraine and I have already discussed subsequent shows, and we're going to do more. This is important information, and Lorraine has a lot to share, and I want to give everyone an opportunity to get in on this. And we have talked about Manalapan County, and she's laid that out. And we're going to do some things and make these Brady complaints and make sure that these pathetic criminals with badges get exposed for the atrocities that they are currently committing and have committed and will continue to commit until we, the people, those people that are listening to this, if you're not part of this problem, but you're not a victim of this problem, there is no middle ground. There's no Switzerland in this deal. Either you with it or you're against it. If you're against it, I encourage you to stand with us and to join us and help us as we continue to bring these things out and to expose these people. And this is what they don't want. They cannot tolerate. They hate free speech. They hate the Constitution. They hate God, and they hate America. That is what's really going on.
And they hate women.
Huh?
They dislike women.
Of course they hate women.
72%.
This is the whole incel movement in a nutshell.
Yes.
They absolutely hate women. And we I want to, when we come back, I don't know which one we'll do first, but I do want to talk more about your animals and what you're doing with that.
Yes, yes.
And I know that you said you've got a nonprofit, and folks,
yes,
and there's people doing this all over the country, and it costs money to care for these animals, medical and food and all these things. And it's expensive. Anybody that's got pets, they know. Now, just imagine when you have pets and animals that have special issues and so forth. That's even it compounds the expense that it takes. And so I really admire you, Lorraine, for doing that. That is absolutely calling, and God has surely got a hand in it. We also want to have a segment, Lorraine, and I want to get on a subject that will get me a lot of hate mail. And so get mine for that, for the trolls and the haters and deplorables, because I'm not going to pull any punches. But we're going to do a show, and I'm going to talk in detail about targeted justice.
Oh.
These FBI perp shills working for the man, running victims down mindless, cultic rabbit holes. We're going to talk about that, and I believe Lorraine can and myself can shed a lot of light on it. I hadn't done it properly. And I'm also talking with another individual, and I'll leave it at that I may bring in on the deal that can speak on this as well. And so that's a developing thing. We're going to try to do all this in short order. So, Lorraine, I'm thinking about a week and a half, somewhere in there, 10 to 15 days, somewhere in there, 2 weeks at the most. We can have you back in here and have a run at it again. Okay.
Sounds good.
And folks, go to Lorraine's YouTube channel, Alternative Homesteading. I'll have that link. You go to her channel and subscribe and support her and share the content, folks. And I'm quite sure that you can reach out to Lorraine, and I had this with you, Lorraine. But I mean, I've got people. I communicate with people from sun up to sundown, and sometimes just spontaneously through the night. It's impossible to talk to everybody. You got to realize that I've got a lot of I get a lot of so-called TIs that are perping by proxy, and
yes, absolutely,
every nut job on the planet. On top of that, I get real victims and real people with real situations that so there's a lot of stuff that we have to weed out, isn't it, Lorraine? I'm sure you get that too. And
there's so much. I mean, it's nonstop. I mean, my regular life is extremely busy. Then to have all the other stuff on top of it, it's just overwhelming. And I'm trying to actually sell this property. So if anybody's out there is looking for a homestead farm, I want to sell. So I need to downsize a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if anybody looking for a homestead farm in Kentucky, holler at Lorraine.
It's beautiful. It really is gorgeous.
I bet it is.
It's beautiful.
It sounds like I mean, the place to be. But I couldn't at this juncture in my life handle it. You know, it's too
much for me, especially being a targeted person.
Right.
I need less acreage, and I need to get away from this particular area of Kentucky.
Yeah, well, that's what I said about Mississippi, and they won't let me go, right?
Well, I've got to get out of here.
I don't know if I'm suffering from Stockholm syndrome or what, but
I've got to get out of here.
It's not that they won't let me go. Is I realized that that I landed in one of the epicenters of corruption, and I'm not going anywhere. As much as there's things that I dislike, but I tell you what, I'm just happy as a hog in slop, being right amongst them and expose them and making them uncomfortable and their crimes and sin and everything else. Well, all right, Lorraine, I appreciate you
so much.
And I hate we've absolutely run out of time, and I enjoyed it and looking forward to having you back on. Okay, and folks, remember, share, subscribe, like, and until next time, God bless.